So let's talk about how to retain information in nursing school, because let's be honest, it doesn't matter how many hours you devote to, to doing your care plans, reading those textbooks, making those flashcards and everything else. If none of that information sticks for the exam, or for a lot of your classes, you're going to be having a cumulative final exam. Hey everyone, this is Thomas from NurseMoneyTalk, where I help nursing students become nurses and nurses excel in their nurse career and nurse life. Now, I already mentioned, let's talk about how to retain information, because in nursing school, you're going to be devoting a lot of your time, a lot of hours, to care plans, but outside of that, to studying for exams. And so one of the issues a lot of nursing students end up having is that they spend a lot of time studying, and then when it comes to the test time, all that information goes away. You know, they don't learn it. They never really had a solid foundation in all of that information, so they're not able to recall any of that once the test comes in. Now, so this is a little different if you struggle with test anxiety, which I'll have a video for that at some point. By the time you're listening to this, I might already have a video on it up that will deal specifically with test anxiety, because that's a whole nother beast in and of itself. But the main thing though is study, and then being able to have that information available for the exam. So one of the first things that I think really helps with retaining information is to study early. Now, I know that there are going to be instances where cramming is just going to happen. I think it's unrealistic to, for me to sit here and say, oh, never cram, study 6 months early for the exam or something like that. I mean, cramming, for most is just going to happen for one reason or the other. But the issue with cramming is that it tends to not give you sufficient amount of time to really, really learn the information. In a perfect scenario, I remember one class, I think it might have been Med-Surg, where I think we were having an exam every 2 to 3 weeks or something like that. If I was being a smart nursing student, which, well, I didn't really do what this advice I'm about to tell you, but if I was smart, then as soon as we had the test, I think it was typically on Friday, so we would take the test on Friday, then we would have 2 or 3 weeks until the next exam. So I take the test on Friday, and then what would then happen is that I would then spend several days before really picking up the steam for studying, and then trying to, at times try to cram as much as possible for the exam. The tests I did the best in were the ones where okay, so I take the test on Friday. I might give myself, that day, 24, 48 hours, whatever, just to chill, not really have to worry about an exam. But then I would start back again on maybe that Monday, and then start slowly just kind of studying the material so that I would then learn it over the 2-3 weeks, as opposed to a 5-day studying marathon to try to prepare for the exam. So that'll make a huge difference. The next one is try to understand why something happens. So in my videos about how I passed the NCLEX, so there were a couple videos where, one which you'll see up there was how I passed the NCLEX RN or whatever. But one of the things that I had mentioned on there was about how important test questions were, but not just test questions, the rationale for those test questions. So why were those rationales important? Because, knowing that the answer is right or wrong doesn't really help you as much as knowing the rationale as to why is that answer wrong? Why is that answer correct? That's like, okay, so this medication or these class of medications are for high blood pressure. So they lower blood pressure. So maybe a way to better understand that is to then look and see what is the mechanism happening as to why these class of medications are doing what they're doing. And so what ends up happening is, like, when you understand why this is doing what it's doing, why this is doing what it's doing, why this is doing what it's doing, it all kind of becomes interconnected in the end, and it helps you form kind of like a better, if you will, better web, a better grasp on the material, on the information. So that's the second thing I would encourage you is, like, don't just look into, like, okay, this causes, this medication causes X, Y, and Z. Okay, that's fine. But maybe look a little further and look into why does that medication cause X, Y, and Z. Number 3 is, like, really knowing what your learning style is, because once you know what your learning style is, that helps you really look at what's the best way you should be studying. So instead of studying for 4 hours in a style that doesn't really work best for you, maybe 2 hours is all you need. And it seems like you might think that I'm exaggerating when I say that, but actually, like, I found for me that it's really not that much of an exaggeration, because when I study the way that comes natural to me, things just go a whole lot smoother. I'm more likely to learn and retain that information. And so the 3 primary studying, or the 3, learning styles, if you will, is audio, visual, and kinesthetic, or tactile, whatever. So audio. So maybe you need to record the lectures and listen to them over and over and over again. Or, record notes, record whatever, there's, podcasts, or maybe listening to YouTube videos or whatever, and just listening to that going on. Maybe that will do wonders for you. Visual, maybe you are the type of person you need to look at diagrams, charts, visual charts, something like that. Once again, YouTube or something of that nature would probably come in hand and probably do really well for something like this, where especially if it's especially if it's a YouTube that's using a lot of visuals, a lot of graphic design to really help illustrate that point. So maybe you are a kinesthetic learner. So maybe about writing your notes down, writing them over and over and over again. So maybe in this situation, you're learning, what was it? It was, it was in human anatomy, human physiology, where we're learning how the blood vessels, how, like, blood is traveling throughout the body. So instead of looking at that book, right? So maybe if you're visual, like, just looking at that textbook would be good enough for you. If you're a kinesthetic, then maybe just, taking, either going to a whiteboard or grabbing a pen, paper, or marker or whatever, and then just drawing out kind of like the pathway that blood flows to and from the heart. Maybe if you're an audio learner, maybe just like listening to somebody talking about it, maybe that would do something for you. And so, I hope you can see from just that one example of looking at for anatomy physiology, looking at the way the blood flows throughout the body, you can kind of see how you can adapt different topics to fit those one of those 3 different styles. Or maybe it's possible, maybe you're strong in 2 out of the 3. Maybe you lean heavily towards one. Maybe there's 2 out of the 3 that you lean towards. So the thing is, like, instead of if possible, instead of trying to fight with your body on what it naturally wants to do, but then instead just kind of go along with it. So if that's where you lean towards visual, then try to do that if possible. So number 4 is don't just rely on your textbook. To me personally, and maybe this is just a personal thing, I have found textbooks to be, in general, not very helpful for me. Like when it comes to a lot of studying, I'm typically either going for, I think like my school, we had to get, I think it was like the ATI that kind of helps supplement that. Whether it's YouTube, especially now that YouTube's even, a lot more popular. There's a lot of YouTube videos out there for a lot of these different topics. I use that to supplement it. There's a course as well out there, that you might consider checking out. You can get to that at going to NurseMoneyTalk.com/nursing student academy. And so all it's just gonna, all that is it's gonna be more of a supplement to kind of like, to your lectures, to your textbooks. I'm not saying that the textbooks are completely worthless. I'm just saying I didn't really find them, very helpful. They tend to be very fluffy. And so I think they can be good for if you really need maybe the background information at times, but I think there's so much fluff hidden in there that you can just be, learning a bunch of stuff that you might not necessarily really need for the exam. Because remember, ultimately the goal is to pass the exams and to pass the NCLEX. And that is personally where I tend to lean towards. So number 5 is looking at finding ways to quiz yourself. So I already mentioned about, some of these supplemental courses. A lot of them have quizzes as well. So once again, check out NurseMoneyTalk.com/nursing student academy. That is it is an affiliate link. So check out, I believe there are quizzes in there as well for those different topics. You can make up your own quiz as well. You can, use flashcards. So online, online flashcard platforms. So like a Quizlet or something of that nature. I'll put a link, to Quizlet below you can check out. So once especially like if you're a kinesthetic learner, so you take the time to write out the flashcards or type out the flashcards. And then, so in the act of typing it or writing it out, you are then kind of learning it yourself. And then after that, then you'll just go through and then kind of quiz yourself. At least that was, I'm kind of explaining a lot of like my workflow in terms of what I did during nursing school. So I would then quiz myself. If you're in like a study group, those are really good opportunities to like quiz each other back and forth, which then gets me to my next point, which is to teach other people. The thing with teaching other people is that I have always felt that, it's hard to teach other people if you don't really understand the material yourself. And that sounds weird that I'm saying that, you're learning it and then you're trying to, teach other people, is that I've always felt teaching forces you to really learn it. Because in order for you to explain it to other people, you kind of have to know what you're talking about, right? And so I've always found that teaching in study groups have really helped, I found that really helpful. So teaching other people, quizzing yourself, so all of those kind of go hand in hand. And so the next one, number 7, is to take breaks in between studying. Now, this goes back to, all the way to the first one, kind of ties a little bit to the first point I mentioned, which was studying early, because if you study early, then you give yourself enough time, you give yourself enough margin. So you never, so you reduce the chances of feeling rushed. The thing is like when, if you have like 3 or 4 days, before the exam or whatever, then you feel like you gotta study, like not give yourself any breaks to really, really kind of rest or digest the information, for lack of a better phrasing. And the thing about it is that like that really does yourself a disservice, because like after a certain point, you're just not gonna retain the information. Like you're just not. Or maybe a better way to say it is that after a certain point, there's definitely diminishing returns on the time that you're spending studying. So I think typically for me, like when I was in the heat of it, like I've always tried to do like an hour and break, hour and break, hour and break. I think if I can find a study, like I'll put it in the description. I believe the study was this was like years ago. I think it was like after so many period of time studying, like you want to give yourself, it was like, I think maybe like 10, 15, 20 minutes of break of doing something completely different than studying or something like that. I don't know. I might be, honestly, it's something like that. Don't quote me on that. But the point of the matter is that you need to give yourself a break, because what's the point of spending 5 hours studying if it only amounts to the equivalent of like 2 hours worth of studying? You see what I'm saying? So at that point, then you're really then spending time pretending that you're studying when you're not really retaining the information. So I think one of the things that I did early on was that I got myself like a noise canceling headphones, and I'll put a link in the descriptions below to the one that I like. But so I would get that, and it was really nice because then I could put it on. I would play like instrumental music. Actually, I got made fun of for that, like instrumental music, like piano music, or like this was like back when Pandora was pretty big. And another station that I had on Pandora, I think was like Native American Flute Ensemble, which was to me was fairly relaxing. At the same time, notice that the kind of like the tracks that I'm mentioning though, that there's no lyrics to them. So there wasn't words to distract me. It was just like musical instruments that were playing. So between the noise cancellation and, between the headphones, the noise cancellations, and then those instrumental musics playing in the background, I was fortunate enough to be able to study just about anywhere. Well, just about anywhere not being, the place that I actually lived. And to me, that made a pretty big difference for me. So just kind of giving you an idea of what like worked for me. Oh, before I get to my last one though, if you're finding this helpful, please hit that thumbs up button, because that will really help us in terms of YouTube getting this video out to more people. If you want more videos related to being a nursing student or about nurse life, then go ahead and hit that subscribe button as well. Thank you so much. Now on to the last one, which is make it interesting. Like, my goodness, I know studying sucks, but I think there are things that we can do here and there to kind of make it a little interesting, whether it is with the, coming up with stories or illustrations. Once again, going back to YouTube, the internet, you can find some funny illustrations for this. Funny, like whether it is like a funny story, or even if it's not a funny story, depending on, what the situational topic is, maybe it's an emotional story that will then kind of help you remember what the topic is, or what the, whatever, specific deal that you're going over. Maybe even like just from, coming up with like a mnemonic, a good mnemonic for it. Like a lot of the mnemonics that I remember from nursing school that kind of helped me with things, most of them, honestly, vast majority of them, I didn't make up really any of them. These were just kind of ones that were told to me, but they were kind of fun-ish. I mean, they were fun inappropriate. So I guess depending on how you want to, look at it, the point of it being though is that, it made it interesting. And so then I remembered remembered it because the mnemonic was, in a way interesting / inappropriate or whatever. I mean, ultimately, you kind of have to do what you can to, to try to get this information down. Like I know nursing school's hard, but you know what? You can do it. You can definitely do it. Last thing I wanted to mention is that if you are really struggling with a topic, you already saw the link to the Nursing Student Academy, which you'll see that on the screen right now. But also, besides that though, if you need a tutor to, like if you're just really struggling in nursing school and you want a tutor to kind of help you navigate a particular topic, or to kind of help you for most of nursing school, depending on what's going on, definitely check out nursemoneytalk.com/tutor. It is an affiliate link. It'll take you to a platform where you can, you'll be able to find tutors in your area, whether it's online, just kind of whatever fits, whatever it is that you're needing. In the upcoming videos here shortly that you will see, you're going to see more videos related to nursing school, related to being a nursing student, that I think that will definitely help you be successful. Thank you so much for watching this video, and I will catch you very soon in that next video.